The chilling Setagaya murders. On the 30th of December, 2000, the Miyazawa family, like every other family, were gathered in their home enjoying New Year's Eve and preparing for the next day's festivities. There was no way that they could anticipate the bizarre turn of events that would follow on that very night. To this day, Tokyo authorities are yet to understand the motive behind the events that occurred on the 30th of December, 2000, or who was responsible for them. To understand what happened that night, we would need to create a timeline of events leading up to that fateful day and a timeline of the events of that day. Mikio, Yasuko, Nina, and Rei Miyazawa lived in the Tokyo Municipal Soshigaya Park with 200 other families. The Miyazawa family was just like any other middle-class family that you may think of. Mikio Miyazawa, father to Nina and Rei, and husband to Yasuko, worked for a foreign-affiliated company and as a corporate identity developer for major corporations. He loved animation, and in school, he was active in puppet and other theatrical plays while he was in college. After his college education, Mikio Miyazawa married Yasuko. They had 2 children named Nina and Rei. Yasuko Miyazawa ran a cram school from her home. Their 2 children, Nina and Rei, attended public schools and were active in their classes. By all indications, the Miyazawa family was a regular, middle-class family in Setagaya, Tokyo. The Miyazawa family lived in the Setagaya section of Tokyo. While the city is one of the largest and busiest cities in the world, the Setagaya section is the opposite of its surroundings. With the quiet atmosphere and its recursive nature, Setagaya is definitely one of the best places for a young family to settle down. The actual home where the Miyazawa family lived was a reasonably large building split into 2. From the street, their home looked like one house, but the Miyazawa family shared the building with the Yasuko family. The Setagaya area was, at one time, heavily populated. When the Miyazawa family moved into their home, there were nearly 200 families living in the area. The city had plans to expand the area to accommodate more homes and to refurbish an old park located right behind the Miyazawa house. Because of these plans, a lot of the families that had initially lived in the area moved away. By December 2000, the Miyazawa family was one of 3 remaining in the area, as they planned to leave the following year. The park located behind the family's home became more active as families left the area. The Keisha Papo Park was a frequent hangout location for skaters. Naturally, from time to time, Mikio Miyazawa was forced to exchange words with usually loud skaters. As the area emptied, it attracted more and more loiterers and young skaters. These new occupants were not welcomed by the few families that remained in the area. At about 11 p.m., as the Miyazawa family enjoyed their quiet New Year's Eve in their family home, their killer climbed up a tree at the back of their home up to the 2nd floor bathroom of the house. He gained access to the house by cutting and removing the screen window of the bathroom. Once he had entered the bathroom, the killer quietly proceeded down the hall. Authorities believe that he intended to check the room for occupants. Unfortunately, the first person he met was 6-year-old Rei, who was sleeping peacefully in the bunk bed he shared with his sister. The killer used his bare hands to strangle the child as he slept. By this time, the noise had alerted Mikio, who was downstairs, to an intruder in his home. Mikio immediately attacked the killer, and as they fought, he was able to injure the killer. His victory was short-lived. The killer was able to overpower Mikio and used a sashimi knife to stab Mikio in the head. The force of the attack was strong enough to break the blade off in Mikio's head. Hearing the sounds of a struggle, Yasuko grabbed Nina and quickly made her way into a third-floor loft that could only be accessed using a drop ladder. Realizing that fight had broken his blade, the killer moved down to the kitchen, where authorities believed he took a kitchen knife and may have attempted to nurse his wounds. Yasuko and Nina, having waited patiently for some time and unable to hear any sounds of the killer moving around, decided to come down from the loft. Nina was injured in the struggle with her father, and Yasuko tried to retrieve the first aid kit from the bedroom. Hearing that they had come down, the killer immediately attacked and overpowered Yasuko and Nina, stabbing them fatally with the broken blade. Of all the deaths that night, the attack on Yasuko and Nina was the most savage. Authorities report that even after he had killed them both, the killer continued to stab Yasuko and Nina on and on until their bodies were mangled. By the time the attack was over, the killer had brutally killed the entire Miyazawa family. The following day, on the 31st of December 2000, Yasuko's mother, Asahi, decided to visit the home of her daughter. Asahi had tried to contact the family multiple times since the previous night to check on them during the festive period, but she could not get across to anyone. As she arrived at the Miyazawa residence, she observed that the family car was still parked in its usual spot and thought it was odd that the family was home and had not answered her calls. Asahi knocked on the door several times without any answer. She then proceeded to the rear of the house, where she continued to knock with no response. By this time, Yasuko's mother began to get very worried about her family. Asahi rushed home to get her key to their home and returned to let herself in. The sight that awaited her was bone-chilling. The first body Asahi found was Mikio's. He had fallen down the stairs during the struggle with the killer and was crumpled at the landing of the stairs, his body twisted at a weird angle. The grandmother, horrified by what she had seen, rushed up the stairs to find the rest of the family. She found Yasuko and Nina lying motionless in a pool of their blood, heartbroken and teary. Asahi began to search for her grandson, who she found dead in his bed, his eyes wide open and his face twisted and frozen in a horrific mask of pain and shock. Hysterical and full of despair, Yasuko's mother called the police, screaming for them to come to the scene as quickly as possible. The investigation. As soon as the police arrived and assessed the scene, it was closed off for investigation. A quick sweep of the home revealed that Mikio had kept in his house a large amount of cash, about 150,000 yen, and foreign currency worth at least 5,000 yen. As far as the authorities could tell, The money remained largely untouched. Further investigation revealed what can only be described as some bizarre discoveries. Authorities would learn that after killing the entire family, the killer hung around, ate several cups of ice cream and some melon, and even made himself a cup of tea. He did all of this while moving around the bodies of the family he had brutally butchered. Police also found large amounts of feces left in the restroom upstairs. The killer had decided to take a dump and had not bothered to flush his poop. Lab reports on the waste would reveal high levels of sesame seeds and string beans, a diet authorities believe would indicate a person still living with his parents. The family's computer and credit card history revealed that someone had attempted, unsuccessfully, to purchase tickets to the theater. The police were unsure if Mikio Miyazawa made the attempted purchase before his untimely death or if the killer was responsible. The killer had also changed out of his blood-stained clothes into Mikio's clothes and jacket. The clothes left behind included a sweatshirt, a pair of gloves, some Schlesinger skate shoes, a scarf, a crusher hat, and a waist bag. The outfit was very common among skaters at the time. It led the authorities to formulate the theory that perhaps the killing was motivated by the heated exchange Mikio Miyazawa reportedly had the week before his death. As investigations continued, police found more forensic evidence at the scene of the murder. Traces of blood, type A, left at the scene did not match that of any family member, and the police believe that it belonged to the killer. Both of the weapons used to kill the family were discovered shortly, and police were able to trace the killer's knife purchase to a grocery store in a shopping district nearby the day before. Other traces of evidence left in the family's icing room showed that the killer had likely slept off in the home after his meal. The aftermath. Despite all of the forensic evidence discovered at the scene, the police have not been able to find the killer to this day. One lead in particular was given to the police by a taxi driver who had reported that he had picked up 3 young men in the early morning hours of the 31st of December 2000. According to the taxi driver, one of the men he picked up appeared to be injured and had left some bloodstains in the backseat of the cab. This supplied police with a new theory that more than one person may have facilitated the killings. On the afternoon of the 31st, just about 3 hours away from the location of the Miyazawa's murder, a man showed up at a medical center needing urgent attention for a severe cut on his hand. He required several stitches. The medical staff who treated the man reported that the cut was so deep that the bone could be seen. The staff reported that the man was strangely calm despite his injury. However, they mentioned that he did not seem like a skater and was in his mid to late 30s. In 2018, the police compiled their findings to release a profile of the killer. The police report concluded that the perpetrator was a young man between the ages of 15 and 20 years old. He is 170 centimeters tall, and by studying the knife wounds on the victims, they could tell that he is right-handed. He could have been a drifter or an illegal immigrant, which explained why the authorities could not trace him. There are many theories about what could have motivated such a gruesome murder. One of the most common is that the killer may have gone into the Miyazawa home that evening to rob them. The residents of Setagaya had been paid 100 million yen as a settlement for leaving their homes. The initial theory was that the killer had gone into the house hoping to steal the settlement money for himself. However, the killer did not touch any of the money left in Mikio Miyazawa's study, leading experts to believe that the murders may have been personally motivated. There is the possibility that one of the skaters that Mikio had exchanged words with may have taken the verbal exchange personally and decided to harm the family. Speculators on the matter have also asked how possible it would have been for all the activities of the night to have gone on without the next-door neighbors of the Miyazawas hearing the struggles and reacting. Whatever the case may be, till today, the killer of the Miyazawa family has not been found, despite large amounts of forensic evidence being left behind. The Japanese authorities have appointed 40 police officers to comb through the case files and the evidence in the hope that they might discover anything that may have been left out in the initial investigation. The biggest question to be answered is, what could have motivated a person to go to such great lengths to kill a family in such a horrible way?